greatest trouble and problem with Galatians 5 is that some Christians think that it's talking to, half of the book is talking to people who are not born again, and half of it is talking to people who are born again. No, sweetie, that whole chapter is for Christians. He's addressing himself to the church at Galatia. He talks about the struggles of Christian growth that is experienced by many, which means, therefore, he says to us, you will find some people who call themselves Christians but who struggle with a spirit of contention. They like to fight a lot. They like to divide people in churches. If he talks about that from verse number 16 to verse number 19. If there was no spirit of contention to fight a lot, there would be no church splits and church division, isn't it? And that's why it is required, because people fight a lot. And if there was no spirit of contention, I think the number of divorces would have come down. By always fighting. And therefore he says there are some people who will call themselves Christians but who have a problem with hatred. They hate other people. He then says there are people who are Christians who have a problem with witchcraft. They solve witchcraft. They use witchcraft to solve their problems, but they're Christians. And I like it in different translations when you talk about witchcraft. We'll read from verse number 16. I'm reading from verse number 22, verse number 16 to 19. He says they use a chemical. In Greek is the word witchcraft, the word chemikeo, which leads to chemical. They use a substance, chemical, to control other people's lives. He says that people who are Christians, but they battle with envy. They fight envy, which means they're envious of others' gifts. Envy is the ability to think that whoever is experiencing good, they shouldn't be the one experiencing good, it should be you. And therefore envy forces itself to want to take the place of other people and walk over people's heads to usurp authority. So therefore that's Galatians 5. That's why one writer says if you go into that chapter today, be prepared to come out 15 years later, because there's some things you need to deal with and comprehend around, particularly understanding the spirit, soul, and body of a born-again human spirit. What is it when we are saved? What is saved? What is not saved? And in humanity, when we get saved, our spirits, our hearts get saved, but we still have the same bodies that we need to contend with. It's in that chapter where we get to understand that some writer says we as Christian people, we've got three enemies. The first enemy is the devil, the second enemy is the world, the third enemy is our flesh, our body, that works against us. That's why Paul says, I control my body so that I don't become disqualified. If he controls it, why would you control it if the body wants to do right? And therefore understand there's some work that needs to, I'm going to say some of these things later on. So therefore, but I want to focus on verse number 22, because that's where I find the thoughts that deal with the topic for tonight. We're talking about kindness. Okay, I don't want to forget this.